Hi, John Murphy of FPF Training with an updated presentation on tools for conflict. An executive summary of this presentation for those who don't want to spend a half hour or so would be this. It isn't worth it. Just get the hell out. So Calvin and Hobbes is always good for this kind of information. You might not be able to see it in the back. So Calvin, you know what I've discovered? What's that? A little rudeness and disrespect can elevate a meaningless interaction to a battle of wills and drama and add drama to an otherwise dull day. Oh, that's good to know. Well, if you weren't such a muttonhead, you would have thought of it yourself. Boom, see, you proved my point. So conflict, anywhere, anytime, over anything anymore. It's been 25, 30 years since the movie Falling Down came out, and things have not improved. A serious disagreement or argument, typically a protracted one, or incompatible or a variance, a clash. So I will caution you this right now, people will people at a moment's notice. Various emotional states, various backgrounds, upbringings, values, people will people. And if you've adopted the armed lifestyle, well, that means any confrontation you get into will be armed. The other person may not know that you're equipped with a firearm, but it is still an armed conflict. Always the same old, same old. Your gun cannot be the default and only response to societal friction. There was an incident in Michigan about 4 months ago, a bump in a store turned into a man posturing thing, turned into the I'm going to kick your butt, turned into a gun drawn and held it aside. Over some stupid stuff that is simple, oh man, my bad, I'm so sorry, pardon me. Would have made all that go away. But no. The gun went on, but the ego did not go off. Typically triggered, these conflicts, by behavior. I can't believe you did that in my presence. You can't do that here. Someone's doing something that annoys the living snot out of somebody else. Conflict. Now, emotional states can be very transitory. You're walking around minding your own affairs and suddenly something sets you off or sets someone else off. And we go up and we go down. Prime example of this, you're driving your car and someone cuts you off. And you have that momentary flash. Ah! And then you get back on going on your business. If that momentary flash is witnessed by the person in that car, then they brake check you. So you're trying to call, and then it turns into dueling banjos. And we all know how that ended, right? Anger and proximity frequently yield trouble. And you just don't know what's going to set somebody off. They may arrive pre-set off. So the 3 Ds, and here's the Irish proverb, many a time a man's mouth broke his nose. The first is determine. De-escalate, depart. But we're going to determine what time it is. Now this graphic illustrates we've got a 1 through 10 scale. 1, 2, 3 is green. That's usual pleasant social interaction with people. Out and about. There's no conflict here. Exchange of pleasantries, etc. 4 and 5 is, oh, hey man, put paper in the printer. That's rude. 5, things are wrapping up. Maybe the odd harsh word at work. Maybe at home you're kind of thrashing things out. 6 and 7, now we're transitioning from conflict to confrontation. People are anchoring in. Egos are ramping up. Volume is going up. vocabulary is getting increasingly harsh. Maybe there's some gestures involved. 8, 9, and 10, well, that's combat. Physical, unarmed combat, physical, and then armed combat, and then down here, lethal force. Now, in the center of this dial, we have the big red button. And that is the immediate application of the last resort, lethal force. We all take our big red button classes, and we'll show up, from 5 yards, 3 rounds in 1.5 seconds, ready, beep, and we push the big red button, and we keep working our shooting skills. We're not working this. We also and we have to understand what time it is, because the time can change. One moment you're at 3 in the green, then you're down at 1, and then now holy cow, I'm number 9. Now number 5, 7. We have to know what time it is, because it may not have a progression. It might just, boom, start at 5. Hey man, what are you doing? Just like that. You're challenged. So we have to determine what's going on here. What am I dealing with? Is this a pleasant social exchange? Is this someone looking to shake me down for a couple of bucks? Is this an entree to criminality? Hey man, what you got in that bag? What you got in that bag, bro? And then you're stopped talking to someone. When you're doing that, that means you're tying up your cognitive functions, and you're having what you think is a social exchange, when in reality what it is, it's a tactic or technique to get you at one spot at one time, because they have a plan for you at that spot at that time. Am I dealing with someone who's upset about my behavior? So I'm going to thin slice this person, apply that heuristic, which is a decision modeling thing. We look at a problem, a situation, we go back through the depth of our experience, and we apply a most likely model to what's happening. I'm going to look for, language, posture. How are you, sir? I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Hey, asshole! That's a little bit different, isn't it? The posture. How are you? How are you? Gestures, volume, tone. The tone could be, excuse me? Excuse me? Excuse me! Same 2 words, different tone. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy! Same 2 words, different tone. Expression. And then movement. I'll say it again and again and again. Movement is eloquent communication. Movement towards you, movement away, movement to the side, movement, they're communicating to you. So we have to watch out for the warning signs when we're out and about. Now, if I apply a heuristic, a thin slice to someone, and I see cauliflower ears, oh, holy cow, that's a thing. That's someone who spent a lot of time boxing or BJJ or wrestling without hearing protection. That cartilage gets bashed up and it pops out. That's someone who's very comfortable with violence. There was a very telling video about 3 years ago of a young man confrontation in the bathroom of a bar. I know, it's shocking. Would have never thought possible, right? And you had 2 guys, maybe 5'7", about my stature, and 2 larger guys. They both played football. And there's some kind of interaction going on there. And the smaller guys are very confident. And they're very calm and they're very cool. One of the larger guys reaches out and punches one of the kids. And he smiled. It wasn't his hardest punch. It was like a social, hey man, take that kind of punch. Okay, we've just established what this is. And the one kid looks over to his friend like, which one do you want? And they chose. And they were both extremely experienced BJJ wrestler guys. And they grabbed these much larger men and got them on their backs and immobilized them quicker than I can explain it to you. And you could tell the shock, like, wait, I'm a big dude. I lift weights. I practice sports ball. Well, that's great. I rehearse murder 25 hours a week in my dojo. And it just was a huge gap and an eye-opening thing. And both those small guys, both of them, had cauliflower ears. If you see a nose broken like that, That's somebody who is no stranger to violence at one point. Even repaired, that's going to be permanently out of joint. Other things to look for, scars. We have to look for pupils, dilated and otherwise, because most of America right now is chemically altered, either legally or illegally. There's chemical alteration going all over the place. You have to be cognizant of that. Dress, body odor, cleanliness, condition of the clothing can all be indicators of what it is you're dealing with. Books and covers. Look at that fine guy. You would see him and not think anything of it, right? Well, that guy was Ted Bundy. He was a flipping psychopath. And I'll default again to William April and his commentary about psychopaths. And I'll put a link to his collective works on YouTube in the description here in the comments. Psychopaths view us as cows. There's no better way to describe it. They are above us, superior beings in all respects. We are worthy of their contempt and most horrific treatment. So here we are, down in this group. Pleasant social exchange. What time is it? Hello, sir, how are you? And I love this kind of thing. The exchange of greetings and pleasantries. I do it all the time in Huntsville. Everyone's so nice in that town. How are you, sir? I'm fine, thanks. How are you? And it's great, and it reinforces the social contract. I acknowledge you as a human being. You see me, I see you. Wow, this is great weather, isn't it? Yep, and we go on about our day a little bit enriched. Now then, that isn't always the appropriate response depending upon where you are. If I tried that in New York City, I would get stared at, or just more likely just blown right past me, because it's not the right behavior in that environment. However, I find it as a useful IFF, identify friend or foe, utility. If I say, good morning, sir, and he says, good morning to you, sir, back at you, I can walk past that man with a 99.999% certainty that I can walk past him without turning my back. On the other hand, you're triggering a conversation with someone which may be viewed as unnecessary. And it could be viewed as an entree. Hey, I'm fine, thanks. Hey, can I ask you a question? Would you like to buy my CDs? That kind of thing. But I still kind of default to just saying hello. I've had some really meaningful exchanges with people by just being nice. Let me story. About 3 years ago, I'm in Talladega, Alabama, at a Waffle House. And it was during the time of the Rona, and they had people in opposite, every other chair, so I had to wait for a while. There was an older black lady finishing up her breakfast, and she was getting up to leave, and she was having a hard time. And I'm like, hey, ma'am, let me get you walked to your car. Let me get that door for you. And she said, it's my hips. And I'm like, sweetheart, we're all going to be that way one day. Got her to her car, went back, and I'm down, I look around, I'm on my phone, and I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I look up, and there she is. I'm like, what is this? She gave me $15 to buy my breakfast. It was beautiful. I almost lost it. I mean, all the gaps were bridged. It was a great moment. And she was a lovely lady. I'll hold on to that memory for quite a while. So now we're moving up. What time is it? Conflict. It's conflict time. It could be some like, hey, pardon me, sir, that was my place in line. Who here has broached that inadvertently? Like sometimes you're checking out at a grocery store, like, oh, I'm going to go over to that register, and you move over to the line, then you're, and you look behind you, like, oh, sorry. And some people, that's not a problem. Others, well, there was a very famous video recently of a gas station at a Costco, and a guy breached the line. That can be a grievous offense to some people. And a guy came up, and the gentleman that came up was openly carrying. Big guy behind the wheel. And it immediately ramped up. And words were exchanged. The big guy got up, went to the trunk of his car. And now he's saying, you came up on me, blah, 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 back and forth. reaches into his trunk and pulls out a collapsible baton, a baton. Well, the gun came out. And immediately there was, well, what time is it? And it was time to become very conciliatory. Oh, shit. And he dropped the club, and they had to have words. But you just don't know what's going to trigger people to move up the scale. But a conflict can be anything from a workplace, like put paper in the printer kind of thing. How many times have I told you that? You left the seat up again. Okay, things of that nature. And if you stay in the high brain, which is part of our principles, we can generally talk those back down. If we go beyond conflict, friction makes diamonds. We have to think about, well, how did this start? Is this silly? And more importantly, am I the problem? Several years ago, I was driving across country, coming up into Phoenix, and I had to, living in my RV, I had to do laundry. And it was a Labor Day weekend, so all of the RV spots were reserved. So I went to Holiday Inn Express, checked in. I moved into the laundromat to do my laundry, and all the machines were occupied. Many of the machines were no longer moving. And I thought, well, somebody's left their clothing. And it said, do not abandon your clothing, don't leave it unattended. I'm like, well, the military default in the barracks for this situation is, I take your stuff out of the dryer. Yep, it's dry. I take your stuff out of the washer, put it in the dryer. I even put change in. And I thought, well, somebody may appreciate that. Well, or not. It was the or not part. And a woman came in, she was grievously upset. And I unthinkingly applied the wrong model to this kind of thing. You touched my stuff. Well, yes, ma'am, you were blocking a public accommodation. Well, I had to go to the store. Well, yes, ma'am, but I have a meeting. But you touched my stuff. So we found ourselves in this circle. And I had a nascent understanding that maybe I was the problem here. I could not bring myself to apologize. I couldn't do it, which is an ego fault on me. It ramped up. You touched my stuff, but you were blocking accommodation, all the things. And finally she said, wait till my boyfriend hears about this. And then I had the thought, what time is it? It's time to leave. So I grabbed my stuff out of the washer and dryer and just left. Because I could just see the headlines the next day. 2 shots over laundry room dispute. It was time to leave. So I could have asked myself, am I the problem? And in that particular instance, I probably had a pretty significant contribution to that. So now the mouth game for conflict. It's a skill. If we have prepared scripts, that allows us to say things to gauge a reaction, and we can say things applied to a circumstance without engaging too much of our high-thinking brain. Think of it as throwing a rock into a pond and you watch the ripples. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to do that. Well, you've just owned up to it, and what kind of response do you get? Yeah, bro, watch yourself. Okay, sure. Or it could be, I don't care, you're sorry. And you can engage in Mad Libs. And that's just, you make a story up. Craig Douglas refers to this as verbal agility. And that's Craig Douglas of ShivWorks. And I've derived much of my managing these kind of contacts from his body of work. Highly recommended. And you can just weave a story and throw some bullshit on your situation. Well, that may or may not work out so well for you. Friction can become, you have to ask yourself a question, are we communicating right now? Or are we just exchanging insults? You're one of those, I'm not one of those, you're one of these. I'm not one of these, you're one of that. And we're not communicating. What time is it? Do not. Now this comes to me, these principles come to me from a guy named Peyton Quinn. I'm vaguely familiar with his work through another defense expert. Don't insult or disrespect someone. You're an X. I think your family's a bunch of Ys. I'm going to F you up, threaten. Don't be condescending or manipulative. Hey, you obviously can't understand the big picture here, pal. What if you just told someone that he's an idiot? Or manipulative. These are not the droids you're looking for. If I can do the little Obi-Wan stuff there. If people think that you're manipulating them, that can be a very escalatory behavior. Create an out for yourself. Hey, why don't we just both walk out that door right now and call it a day? I can see your point. So Hobbes knows the deal. Never in the history of calming down has anyone ever calmed down by being told to calm down. Men find that profoundly insulting. Calm down! What are you saying? And off we go. Be sincere if you're going to engage in profanity. I will default to a lesson I got from Greg Elefritz on this particular topic. And Greg of ActiveResponseTraining.net just hosted him in a class last weekend. Profound instructor. And he notes the difference between motherfucker, get back! Insult. Or fucking get back! Command. Both as a command, one has an element of an insult in it. You've just accused someone of having unnatural relations with their mother. And that may trigger a response. So you end up in doing banjos if you're not careful. And Victor goes up an octave. Chris, and before you know it, it gets ugly. Ask yourself constantly, is it worth it? Am I being sucked into a vortex here that's going to result in violence? And what was the executive summary? 99.999% not worth it. Constantly assess what time is it. Is it time to leave? Now, there is a model called LEAPS for this sort of conflict thing, and that's if you choose to engage with someone. And that can be very risky behavior because you don't know who you're dealing with. The first is listen. Okay, I got it. You think I'm an asshole? Many others have said that. I can kind of empathize with your situation. I got that. You can ask them, well, what more can I do? What more would you want from me? You think I'm an X because I did Y. Is that what you're saying? And then summarize, like, I think I understand where you're coming from. Here's your perspective. Now, that all depends upon that you're having a rational conversation with someone. And I got news. There's less rationality in this world every day. So if you're going to go down that pathway of engaging someone, here's a model for you, LEAPS. Now, I got this from a guy, I did a heart rate variability training thing a couple months ago, and he had an acronym too, WAIT. Why am I talking? You can't hear anything or listen to anyone if you're flapping your jibs. Watch what they do. Listen to what they say. If someone threatens you, I'm going to mess you up. Oh, noted. I believe you. Hey man, get back. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight. Tone is different. Body posture, I'm still showing the fight thing, but what am I doing? I'm backing away. So you're looking for that incongruity between the two. Or here's my favorite. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you when they're coming towards you. Now, words as social lubricant. Here's some of my favorites. I see your point. Here's where I'm coming from on that. This if you're having a conversation with someone. I did not know that. Well, that certainly changes things. I see it your way now. Let's just agree to disagree, shall we? Have a pleasant day. Injecting humor. It can be very beneficial if you're on that same wavelength. If you're not, oh, you think this is funny? You think you're having a joke? Not so good. So it can be a kind of a high-risk maneuver. I'm reminded, story time, eons ago, I was at an NRA event in California, and I was loading magazines for Richard Roundtree, the original Shaft. He was an immense human being. And he is shooting a Smith & Wesson Model 3913 Lady Smith. He had hands the size of baseball gloves. And they gave him this itty-bitty gun, and he was left-handed. So he put the magazine in the gun, and before I could stop him, he reached over the top of the gun to run the slide. Well, it went forward and bit him. And he looked down at me like, little man, I'm going to kill you. And I thought, think fast, Murphy. And I said, that's nothing Shaft couldn't handle. He threw his head back, roaring in laughter. That's my one moment in Hollywood. He was a lovely man. Deflect the conversation. You're an ex. Yeah, my mom says so too. A little humor maybe, a little self-deprecation. Or, hey, all things aside, that is a cool shirt. That shirt is really cool. I want that shirt before we leave. I'm going to have that shirt. The shirt says, remember when I asked you for your opinion? Yeah, me neither. I thought I remembered you from someplace else. I thought maybe I was in the Marines with you, but oh no, that you couldn't possibly be Bob's son, or Bob, you must be Bob's boy. Something like that, a little deflection. You know what, you're right. I think I'm going to go home and think about how wrong I've been. And we leave. You think you can kick my butt? Well, so do I, so there's no point in kicking my butt. Sometimes, if you're paying attention to who's around you, you may have a momentary eye contact. That can really set people off. And then you get this question. What are you looking at? Well, you need to deflect from that. Oh, I'm sorry, man, I'm zoned out. My apologies. Can I catch the next round for you guys? That may work. Now, there is a noted internet author by the name of Michael Yan. And in an earlier life for him, he had just graduated Special Forces training, and he's in a bar. And he had a guy that was determined to start a fight with him. Jan even went so far as to buy the guy a beer. Still escalating. So finally, reluctantly, he throws a punch. Knocks the guy out on his feet, his head hits the floor, and he dies. They still did all they could to convict him, even though he was on record. It's not a justice system, it's a legal system. Now, in the last month or two, a gentleman left us by the name of Jack Clemens, an immense human being, with a lot of experience bouncing in bars and things of that nature. And he had what he called the My Bad 20 in his right front pocket. And if he ever spilled some drinks on anybody or caused some friction, he could just reach in his pocket and say, hey, sir, my bad, and buy his way out of it. Not that he would have ever had to, because he was an immense man. Very, very smart, too. It was a loss for all of us. Jack Clemens. A sincere apology can be a great social lubricant. Please note the caveat, sincere. Because you're telling a little white lie. Because you're really not sorry. You know, dude, I'm really sorry, man. Like, yeah, I'm sorry. Which one of those is going to fly? The ultimate weapon. I'm about to give it to you. Are you ready? I'm really sorry. Can you please forgive me? And you're throwing it all back onto them. Like a little verbal judo thing. So, yeah, man, just watch yourself, okay? Apology accepted, we part. Or then, it can become, I don't care that you're sorry. Well, he's just shown some cards, hasn't he? And think about this. If there are witnesses to this event, this exchange, of all the things you're doing to avoid this problem, and then it eventually escalates, and the cops arrive, well, that guy there said he was really sorry. That guy there tried to punch him, so that guy pepper sprayed him. Oh. You buy a lot of social and legal goodwill that way. Remember, you don't know who you're dealing with. And you can be dealing with a human being that in the last half hour had some really having a crappy day. Otherwise, a fine person that you can share a beer with, bam, and it's off. So now we're going to move down to confrontation. Click, click, increasing consequences. Now words are being exchanged, generally gestures, possibly threats, and you have to believe them. I'm going to mess you up. I believe that you would. So why don't we just avoid that so I won't have to pepper spray you? Or, well, at that point, I would engage in some like, I understand you're very upset. I don't think that's an appropriate thing to say. Got to stand up. But I'm perfectly comfortable with what's about to happen here. Movement is eloquent communication. If I'm trying to establish proximity to you where I can touch you, that's a thing. If I'm moving away, maybe this person's recognizing the situation is escalating and they're trying to create some space. I got it. Gestures. The point, the axe hand, knife hand. Posturing. We've all seen it. We've all participated in it. So, Epictetus was a Greek guy, one of those Stoic dudes. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Let's do a little Spock action here, a little Vulcan stuff here. You can't offend me because you can't offend me. I'm not offended because you can't offend me. Because you're nothing to me, essentially. If don't let someone turn you into a squeaky toy. They squeeze you and you squeak. Because some people can derive pleasure from that. As a dopamine seeker, I can understand that. When it's time to leave, here we are in the conflict. This is definitely in the conflict zone. You are here. And by the way, reflect upon this for a moment. This incident you're having with this person or these people may start right there. You can be, in your phone, you look up like, holy cow, and you're getting this. Or people are fanning out around you. Holy cow, that's a thing. And it's here and we're heading this way. We're going from yellow and orange to red. Time to leave. Remember, they have a 51% controlling majority on how your departure goes. They may not allow it. Our criteria, the conditions must be right. I need at least 3 steps away from someone before I can start backing away. That way they can't just reach out and pop me one. Like, whoa, stop right there. I just need to start there as I'm creating some space. If I create space and they fill that void by moving into me, what is movement? Eloquent communication. Vocabulary, tone, and posture. Sir, I just want to leave. If you could just stay there and give me a moment. I don't need to hear any, I just want to go home. But if I'm getting this, no man, screw you, I'm not letting you go out of here, then it may not be time to leave because you can't. If they physically stop you from leaving. Now this next bit is the muck maneuver, and this is for managing unknown contacts. This is, again, Craig Douglas Shivwork's terminology and approach. And Craig would have us move rather than straight back from someone. We want to move in a semicircle. And we do that for a couple reasons. First, it creates an off angle. And secondly, as I move around, it gives me my peripheral vision more data. I can see more things. Because what if I've got 2 or more people working in concert with each other? That's a thing. Asking permission. Sir, would you let me leave? Did you hear that loud gulping sound I just gave? That was every ounce of my ego being swallowed. Yep, I'm utterly being supplication, utter supplication. I'm asking you, a man, I'm a grown man, permission to leave out that door. That's very humbling. But you may have to do it. You may not be able to back away from someone because the exit may be behind that person. Decisive departure. And we manfully run away. If you're getting what you want, which is departing, don't turn around and say, yeah, it's a good thing you let me out of here because I was going to mess you up. I can think of several confrontations I witnessed which were calming down until words like that were exchanged. Oh, really? Dun, 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 and it's back out again. If you have a conflict with someone and they leave, you should too. The opposite direction. Because if they come back, that's profoundly bad. If you're out in the vehicle environment and someone goes to their trunk and comes back, that's bad. If you're out in another environment and they leave, they can come back convinced of their righteousness, armed and with friends. So don't be there when they come back. If they don't let you leave. De-escalation by escalation. Holy cow. Now this is where it gets ugly. You can escalate. I will defend myself. That's where we are. That escalation can take place in the form of, if you want, throw that punch. And now that's a thing we'll discuss. You can pepper spray someone, or you can draw to a ready or retention position and give a verbal command. This is escalation to the point of I'm threatening now to kill someone. How much legal justification do I need for that? All of it. I'll default to Mas Ayub's CYA acronym. Can you articulate? Can you authenticate? So now we're down here in the combat mode. We've gone condition red. And this is highly escalatory. If I throw that first blow, well, it can start like I punched him and then the fight started. How does that play out in the court of law? So this puts you in extreme legal jeopardy, and you must be able to articulate when the cops show up because the law will take interest in your behavior, and fighting is illegal. Officer, the sum of my experience and training led me to believe that I was in imminent danger of serious bodily harm from that man. So I pepper sprayed him, or I punched him, or I jabbed him, or I drew down on him and said, get back. But recognize at this point, you're putting a lot of chips on the table. Some complicated scenarios. Say you're at a ticketed venue or an event. You paid to be there. And you're having a good time except for this person or these people. How hard is it to leave that? You're literally financially vested in this thing. It can be very hard. And there's more than one problem. Who here has witnessed 1-on-3, 2-on-5 kind of events? That's kind of a thing. Then they all start to fan out around you. Ooh, that can be exciting. Crazy neighbors. There was an incident maybe 3-4 years ago in Pennsylvania over snow shoveling. It's on another one of my videos. I'll link to it. It's on Conflict as well. And you had a couple who were rather notorious in the neighborhood for being instigators. And this other guy, he was like a local engineer, otherwise an unknown individual whose wife had just passed recently due to cancer. And there was snow shoveling. Snow got shoveled into this guy. It just got ugly quickly. And the guy left, and he came back with a handgun. And the couple stood there. They started recording it, and they kept running their mouths. He shot them both, wounded them. Then he went back and retrieved a rifle and came back and administered the coup de grace shots. I'll link to that video in the comments. Now, if you have a crazy neighbor, well, how can you leave that? You're maybe upside down in your mortgage. Maybe the commute and your job is so good. It's a very complicated situation. You will find that people who have lived on the street are very, very, very verbally adept. And they can throw just a verbal fog at you. Again, I'll default to Greg's class last week. His first 5 or 6 years as a cop, he could not keep up with these people as he was arresting them. They were that much more verbally fluid than he was, agile, to borrow a phrase from Craig. The gaps. Back to William April. One of the most dangerous things we can do is to project our morals, ethics, and values onto someone else. They may not share them. And don't think for a second that they don't have morals, ethics, and values. They're just utterly opposed to yours. Different worlds. Same country, same overlap, different worlds. That's very dangerous. If you don't have the same perception of the same situation, language is different. One of my favorites is, give me 5 feet, give me 5 feet, which comes to us from the California penal system. Now, unless you've got someone who was exposed to that, they've got no idea what the hell you're talking about. What do you mean? And then off we go. And some people just want to fight. About 22 years ago, holy cow, I took a class with Kelly McCann at the Crucible, and I had a classmate from Jamaica, a lovely man. And he was at a concert in Boston, and he was insulted grievously. Hey, what are you doing here? Expletive deleted. And my man went, my name isn't expletive deleted, my name is Snoopy. And everybody laughed and shared a drink. Everybody's looking for a fight, and they found a guy that was funny, and he talked his way out of it. Not saying it worked at that moment for him. But those guys, they're just boss. They were Southeast, and they were just looking for a fight. So let me throw something at you here. I got to step off camera for a second. You can have Burger King, have it your way from these exchanges. You can compromise or agree to disagree, or you can end up dead, beaten, or imprisoned. That's pretty much the spectrum of what can happen as a result of these conflicts exchanges. Keep asking yourself, is that parking spot worth it? Was that bump worth it? So our applicable principles would be, gun goes on, ego comes off. Discussed that earlier in another video. Stay in the high brain. Start moving and applying your tactics to the situation, but keep that brain going. Keep that conversation going with your eye toward just getting home. Know what time it is. Know where you are, know what time it is. And here's a big one I'll get from Matthew. Just forgive people their trespasses. Because our goal is to just get home. Because people will people. And take a look at these people. Stay in the high brain. Pre-decisions. It's time to leave. And that's all I have for this presentation. Thank you very much. Hope to see you on the range.